in case you missed it, the NFL recently rolled out 5 new rules that are going to impact the entire league for this upcoming season. So in this video, we're going to dive through each of those rules, and I'm just going to give you my take. So that way you can be more informed and you can know how all this impacts the New Orleans Saints. Welcome to Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name, as always, is Trizzy Trace Gerard. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's program. No matter where you are or how you're watching, we always appreciate the Who Dat Nation for making us a part of their day. So let's start off with rule number 1. Teams are permitted to speak to players during the legal tampering period. And what this means is this is not anything in the regular season. This is during offseason and ahead of free agency. And, this does impact teams in terms of looking for players and trying to bring in guys throughout free agency. Tom Pelissero, he did add some context here. We're going to show a lot of what Pelissero had to say because he had a lot of extra insight here throughout this video. So the Steelers' proposal regarding the contact with free agents during the negotiating window has passed with some modifications on a 1-year trial basis. So, this does impact a lot of teams, and obviously, the Falcons last year lost a pick because they tampered by going and getting Kirk Cousins, so Atlanta feels like they got screwed. Previously, clubs could have only contacted their agents, not the players, so now you can contact the players. A common sense change at a time clubs are doling out, billions of dollars to players they haven't even talked to. I think that it does make some sense, and I think it does add some context here, and I will also say this, when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, I do think that it does add some good news there. You can go and you can go and talk to players, and you can go and bring guys in without having to talk to their agents and actually get a feel for who the player is before you sign them. And the Saints aren't a team that make a lot of splashy moves right at the rip of free agency because they never really have the money to spend. But I will add this. It does help in terms of adding players, and it does make an impact. So I think it's good news overall for all teams, less of an issue with having to deal with potential tampering and, all that good stuff. So, rule number 2, we just talked about the teams permitting the players to discuss free agency signing with tampering and stuff. So rule number 2, the kickoff touchbacks are now placed on the 35-yard line. The Rizzy rule is now fully in effect. If you don't know what this is, Darren Rizzy, he was the one who basically introduced the UFL kickoff rule to the NFL, and he's the one who kind of got it all started and everything, and now this is officially a rule, but instead of at the 30-yard line, it is now going to be the 35-yard line. So here's what this looks like for the kickoff rule. We got the end zone, the landing zone, and then at the setup point, obviously. So if you get a touchback, this is pretty interesting, you'll actually find yourself much further down the field. So that does help teams with bad offenses like the New Orleans Saints. I'll also say this. I do think that this is a good rule to have. It does encourage teams to not get touchbacks. It encourages more big moments and more fun moments. However, there is obviously the concerns of player safety with kickoffs and stuff, but I think that's where this split zone or like the setup zone, I think that's where that comes into play and does offer some insurance, if you will, and offers some less high impact collisions is kind of the word I was going for. I'm having brain farts. Today's a tough day for old Triz. Now, in 2024, in case you guys didn't know, if you hated the new kickoff rule, I'm going to tell you I disagree. I personally was a big fan of the new kickoff rule. I thought it was cool. I'm personally just a fan of more football. And, the fact that there's now more meaningful plays and it's not just a free play, kick in the back of the end zone, take over, and we just keep this thing moving. I think this is nice. I mean, you can see the return rate was 32.8% last year, which is up 11% from 2023. And over 40-yard returns, we saw 59 of those across the entire 2024 season. I love that. I think it's really cool. I think that this is really nice because it encourages more kick returns. I think having more meaningful plays in a football game is really good stuff. And honestly, I really like it for guys like Rashid Shaheed and Kendre Miller and Dante Pettis, who will be serving as return specialists in the return game. I just am a big fan of modifying and perfecting this rule. I think that there's still things that need to be worked out with it. A lot of teams last year were kicking it into the end zone and trying to kind of put it in corners to try and make it a little bit harder for you to get downfield and all that good stuff. But I thought that the overall kickoff rule was really cool. And yeah, it's more football, man. Like, how as a fan could you sit here and say, I don't want more football? And, I like Rashid Shaheed. We mentioned him. This is going to be really good news there. In 2024, his kick return stats were a little bit down. However, he didn't play in every game, and he had a lot more limited opportunities because of the lack of availability this year. 14 returns. He averaged 22.6 yards per return. No touchdowns, but he did log touchdowns in the punt return department in 2022 and in 2023. He had a long of 38 yards. I would like to see that be a higher number, but I also can sit here and say this. I thought Rashid Shaheed is one of the most electric football players in the league whenever he has the ball in his hands. Just got to give him the opportunity. Got to keep him healthy. Got to give him more chances. And honestly, like, I love using him as a receiver, but I mean, him being a return specialist is a great role for him as well. And I think that Rashid Shaheed is one of the more underrated special teamers and underrated players in this league. And, Dante Pettis, we mentioned him as well. He will be serving in the kick return department. He'll be fighting for a roster spot because he was brought back on a one-year, very, very cheap contract. No risk, minimal reward. I don't think this is a bad move for the Saints. He did have 3 kick returns for 96 yards last year, and he did offer a lot of punt return ability too. So I think for a guy like Dante Pettis, who will more than likely carve out a role being the second return guy or the backup return guy or, being a low-end receiver, this is good news for him specifically, but also Kendre Miller, because this will just give him more opportunities to be able to make something happen. And this will give him more time with the ball in his hands to prove to himself that he deserves, or prove to the team and the fan base and everybody, he deserves more reps as a running back too. And look, 176 yards on 6 kick returns is very impressive. And I kind of like having Kendre Miller and Rashid Shaheed be your return guys, because don't sleep on Kendre Miller's speed. He's very quick. He's also just a hard guy to bring down, and I really like him being kind of a lead blocker for Rashid Shaheed as well. So I just think this is a major, major benefit to anybody who's a return specialist. I mean, obviously we talked about the Saints guys specifically, but across the entire National Football League, this is really good news for anybody who will make a career out of being the return guy and who could carve out a bigger role being the guy who is the kick returner, the punt returner. Like, I think that this is all really good information, especially for those lower end guys on the roster. We'll have to see what happens in terms of how much this benefits and how many more yards this leads to, but I do think this is a really good rule in terms of helping out the special teams guys. Special teams, special plays, special players, all that good stuff. Shout out Sketch. All right, let's just have some fun here. Just kind of an off-the-wall question. This is the first question of the day. Name a random Saints special teamer. It can be a current player. It can be a former player. I'll start off, and I'm going to go Rico Payton, current guy on the roster, really solid player, UDFA that the Saints brought in from Pitt State. I'm a big, big fan of him. I want to see him have a bigger role as a corner, but I want to see him continue dominating as a special teamer. All right, rule number 3 out of 5. Both teams will now possess the ball in overtime. I really like this rule. I think that too many times we've seen games end without the opportunity to feel like we got a true overtime. And, if I have this correct, Moose, it doesn't impact the playoffs. The playoffs are still, it's chalk as it is. Yeah, so in the playoffs, you still first team to score a touchdown wins. But if you kick a field goal, you get the opportunity to try. Now in the regular season, even if a touchdown is scored, you will still get the opportunity to try and score points and ultimately win that game. I think that's a good rule as well. It gives, again, more football. How can you complain if you're a football fan? If you're a real fan, how can you complain about more of your favorite sport? Come on now. I also will add, I think that with both teams possessing the ball in overtime, I think it also changes the strategy and how teams approach 2-minute drills late in the game. Like, rather than going for the win, maybe teams are like, okay, we can settle for the tie now that we don't have to try and win this game because we don't think we can win in overtime. Best example of that could be the Saints against the Commanders on December 15th when Spencer Rattler almost led a second half comeback. I think that that's a good rule for a lot of teams. I think it's a good rule for just the NFL as a whole. And really quick, before we get to our last couple of rules, we're going to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is Fanatics. If you guys want to get a draft hat, you can go and pick up this hat or many others. Chatsports.com/SaintsDraft. These are the hats that all of the picks for New Orleans will be rocking. I love the little City Edition pins that they got up there. So clean with that umbrella. I absolutely love it. I picked up this one, but you can get this one right here. You can get any of the other ones that we're going to show you. Chatsports.com/SaintsDraft. The link is in the comments and description of this video. Make sure you visit it and check it out so you can get yourself some new gear. It's going to be rocked by some future Saints legends. Alrighty, next rule, second to last. Replay assist will be permitted. This is really, really cool. This is a really fun one. All right, show of hands. How many of you have had a play where, or you've seen a play where a replay came in and you were like, wait, this isn't correct. This isn't right. I don't like how this looks. It's not okay. I'll just say this. I've seen it way too many times where it's like, oh my God, they got the replay wrong. Or, oh my God, that's clearly a first down and they're short. Or, oh my God, that's clearly a touchdown, but you're saying it's out of bounds. Whatever. All of that thing is good. And the replay assist rule is permitted to reverse flags for hits to defenseless players, face mask, horse collar, tripping, and running into / roughing the kicker. So, not only have we seen the, oh my God, I got screwed over because he was ruled out of bounds, but he wasn't. This rule doesn't necessarily impact that, but it does impact the penalties and the defenseless players stuff. And, as a Saints fan, we get a lot of penalties, and we've seen penalties screw our team way too many times. So, reminder, the replay assist rule is permitted to reverse flags for hits to defenseless players, face mask, horse collar, tripping, and running into or roughing the kicker. It's a good rule, in my opinion. It just kind of helps clean up all the ticky-tacky calls, and it kind of just helps clean up everything from just making the game, the flow of the game, and making it actually make sense and not stupid and useless calls that just ruin the game. Like, this helps prevent this from becoming the ref show, which too many times, as Saints fans specifically, we've seen happen. Alrighty, last thing. This kind of helps with the replay assist here. And not necessarily helps with the replay assist, but I think it kind of adds a little bit more to it. Not only with the replay assist is that going to be added, but we're going to have new Hawkeye technology implemented for the line to gain on first down. So we're having 2 new rules in terms of how replays and how things are reviewed for plays in game action. Tom Pelissero adding this: the Sony Hawkeye technology will be used by the NFL as the primary method for measuring the line to gain beginning this season. The chain crew will remain on the field as a secondary capacity. So, meaning the chain crew, they'll still be there. They're still going to be there holding their sticks and all that, but they're not actually going to... Crazy thing. We're not... all of the hype, all of the suspense of seeing all those fat old refs running out here with the chain, and then they're going to put it down, and then they're going to stretch it out, and then we're going to see the ball. Is it right here? And then they bring it in, they pull it tight, and it's right here. So it's we're going to... Not as much of that. Just not as much of that. It's going to be technology. It's going to be a lot more accurate. It's going to be a lot more trustworthy, at least in my opinion. Hopefully the technology doesn't screw us over, but I do think this is a good rule to have. All in all, I like all 5 of these rules. I think that it impacts the Saints well. I think it impacts all of the NFL well. All 31 other teams should benefit from these rules. And to be totally honest, I think that these are rules that honestly just clean things up. They just help make sure everything is squared away. Everything is good for the fans, good for the players. Everyone is being nice in terms of having the calls go not completely one-sided. It just feels kind of like a checks and balances kind of thing, and it makes life a little bit easier as a fan for me to appreciate and enjoy the games more, and hopefully for you to do the same thing. Now, if you're still watching today's episode, get down in the comments section and type "Who dat" for me if you're a real one. That means you watched this entire video, and that means you are a real one. Shout out to you guys for rocking and rolling with us. A little bit longer of a video. I know that my rule explanation may not have been as amazing as you wanted it to, but I'm just a guy who's talking about some things that I saw on the internet here on YouTube. I'm a diehard Saints fan, so if you want more coverage, subscribe today. Y'all stay golden. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.